Hi, this is Ralph Zuranski. I'm on the phone with Carl Galletti. He's recognized as one of the great copywriters in the world today. I met him at a number of conferences that I went and took photos at. In fact, I even worked at his conference in Las Vegas that he has every year, running the computers and taking the photos of the speakers and creating a theme website. And Carl has risen to the top of the world of direct response advertising and is now considered by many to be one of the best freelance copywriters and marketing experts in the country. I know that he started off in the industry as one of the first to have internet marketing conferences where a lot of the leaders in the industry now got their first speaking opportunity. Carl is unique as a copywriter because his marketing skills are at least as valuable to his clients as his copywriting skills. He is one of the top people in the industry. He's probably one of the pioneers in developing copywriting for the internet. And I have to say, I've enjoyed going to his different conferences where he focuses on how to get traffic to your site. How are you doing today, Carl?
Very good. Happy to be with you, Ralph.
Well, I really appreciate you taking your valuable time to answer some of these heroes questions because you've definitely been a hero to me. You're one of the first people to volunteer to help out with the program at the big seminar back in Dallas when everything started its big beginning, I think. How your conferences were earlier than that, weren't they?
Yeah. I forget how many I had up till then, but we've been doing the Internet Marketing Super Conference since 1999, I believe. That was our first year, and this year will be our 7th year.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know I've been to yours last year, and it was just incredible, the depth of information that was available from the speakers that you had. Let me go ahead and ask you a couple questions here. The first one is, what is your definition of heroism?
Well, that's a good thing to take a look at. I think a hero is someone who inspires you to be better than you think you can be, and inspires greatness in you, and makes you realize that there's something that you can achieve in your life.
There's a lot of people like myself that had pretty rough childhoods, some from child abuse, some from just feeling sick all the time, and, with any number of problems. Did you ever create a secret hero in your mind that helped you with life's difficulties when you were younger?
Well, I didn't have an especially difficult life when I was younger, although if you asked me when I was younger, I probably would have had a different opinion of it. But when I look back on it compared to the difficulties other people have, I really didn't have it all that bad. I didn't have much money. My family didn't have much money, but I didn't starve at any point, and I had clothes on my back, and I wasn't able to do some luxurious things, but I got by. And in my own mind, I suppose there were a number of heroes through my lifetime, and in my early days, I usually adopted sports figures as heroes. For example, my hero growing up as a kid was Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle.
So you're a real baseball fan then?
Yeah, well, my dad took me to the New York Yankee baseball games, and one time we even went back and waited for the players to come out and got autographs and everything. And I'll tell you, one of my heroes is my dad. And although I don't think I ever realized him as a hero before, but I think so. And when we were out getting autographs, cute little story, Yogi Berra came out, and, I got an autograph from him. And then he walked to his car, which is just parked right on the street there, And he got in, and he's trying to pull out on the traffic, and the traffic was heavy, and no one would let him in. So my dad went out in the street and stopped the traffic and waved to Yogi so he could get by.
That's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah. There have been a lot of heroes in my life, and, Thomas Edison was a hero of mine, and the reason is because, there are a lot of people you can take a look at, and they're famous because of things that they've done, and sometimes they involve things that are, not terribly helpful to people, but, they're political figures or whatever, I don't know. But Thomas Edison invented things that really helped people, and I thought he improved the world quite a bit. The electric light, the phonograph, the movie camera, things like that. And, I've had other kind of mentor heroes in my life, like Ben Franklin, Napoleon Hill, and lesser-known ones in the area of, my area of copywriting and marketing, Robert Collier, for one, and Claude Hopkins, and a number of those people who are famous within my little world of copywriting, marketing, and advertising.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
I think it's an imperative, and the thing that many people in business especially don't realize is that your integrity can be a selling tool, because it's rare enough to have people that you deal with that have integrity, that it's a real unique advantage to whatever you're doing. So, having that integrity, but it's not just the selling tool. It also just makes you feel much better about yourself, and that's probably the most important part of it.
Mm-hmm.
How it makes you feel about yourself, because for example, I've gone. Everybody's had this situation. You go into a store, you buy something, you get change, and you get more money than you were supposed to. The clerk made a mistake, and it happens less often now where the cash register tells you how much to give the customer. Yeah. But even then, sometimes they make mistakes. And the question is, what do you do at that point? Nobody's going to know that you've got a few extra cents or dollars or whatever you got out of it. And I find that whenever that happens, I bring it to the clerk's attention and get it corrected, and I feel so much better at that. It makes you feel so good that you're doing that, and I'm not sure exactly why even, but it's like one of those good, make you feel good type instances in your life that are, you can't buy that kind of feeling.
And in people's lives, there's always a question about, are you willing to sacrifice your life for certain principles? And the biggest question so far has been, is it easier to sacrifice your life on the battlefield or run into a building to save a dying person, or is it harder to lay down your life, say, for somebody that's taking care of their sick parents or a sick child? What do you think about that particular perspective on sacrificing your life?
Well, I think sacrificing your life off of a battlefield and out of an emergency situation where you have to do it day in and day out requires a heck of a lot more courage and fortitude than doing it on a battlefield. Not that doing it on a battlefield isn't, exemplary or even an emergency, but in those cases you kind of like you're not even thinking, you're just doing, mm-hmm. and you'll find people who are courageous because, when it cuts right down to it, the split second, they can't think, they can only act, and they act according to their principles, and the principles tell them, go for it, do it, save this person's life, risk your life to do it, it's worthwhile, and, all of that computation happens in a fraction of a second. When you're doing something where you have to actually make a calculated decision and sacrifices that you have time to think about, I think it requires a lot more courage to do that on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has low points in their lives, and some people, it destroys their lives. Other people, they overcome those challenges and have victory. What was the lowest point in your life, and how did you overcome those obstacles to have victory?
Well, I'm not sure I can connect real well with a particular low point. You know, there probably were several, but I think I can definitely say that what kind of kept me going is my heroes in my life and their words and the books that I read that basically laid out a philosophy of life. People like Napoleon Hill and Ben Franklin and motivational speakers and things that I've read in books and listened to on tapes. For motivation-wise, you know, it's all about, you know, knowing that you have a purpose, and you have to also figure that you'll have times in your life when you're being you're in a not so good situation, and the thing is if you look at them as kind of a, you know, this is a test, and I'm going to work my way out of this, and you know, have hope for it, and you need to believe in yourself that you can do better.
What's the dream or vision that sets the course of your life?
Well, I think in my own particular case, I want to be an Academy Award-winning director.
Really?
and you know, I'm probably in a practical sense, I'm too old, and I'm not pursuing a career, although I have gone to film school. But it's just something that I set up. And, you know, what's internet marketing have to do with that? Well, nothing seemingly on the surface, but actually there are a number of things that actually do have to do with, on a creative level, having to do with similar kinds of things. And, you know, I'm not sure I'll ever get to that point, but what I look at it as is whatever I'm doing, I try to do to a quality point of view to be capable of performing at that level.
Everybody experiences setbacks and misfortunes in their lives, and a lot of us make mistakes on a daily basis. How important is it to take a positive view of those events?
Well, I think you always need to have a positive view as much as you can. And sometimes, of course, when you're in the midst of it, it's much more difficult than when you're making some progress out of it. But one of the techniques that is very useful is don't think you have to solve it all at once. Just do a little piece of it at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Just do something which is positive. Like, when, you know, a lot of people do this when they're depressed or upset or something hasn't gone their way. You know, they go out and do something that they enjoy doing. Like, you know, for a lot of women, it's shopping. You know, it might be taking a hike, or for me, you know, it would probably be listening to some music that I like. That, you know, music is a very powerful force.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to music, and it kind of tunes you into a wavelength, a mental wavelength, and you want to get obviously things that are. You want to try to get things that are positive, but sometimes, you know, when you're not feeling so up on things, some of the positive things are just not very pleasing and comforting to you. And sometimes, you know, it might be just like a blues thing where somebody's, you know, singing the blues about how tough things are for them, and it kind of gives you comfort in the fact that you're not the only one, you know. And, you know, you work your way up from that. I also enjoy going to a good movie. Mm-hmm. And so one of the best things you can do if you're feeling down is to watch comedies.
Yeah. Well, do you feel it's important to be an optimist, to have an optimistic view of life? I
think so. I think there's no upside to having a negative view of life, and in fact it's self-defeating, because that very negative view of life will tend to give you an even more negative situation than you're in. I mean, the important thing is that when you're in a negative situation, or even in a positive situation, you always need to picture positive stuff and move toward positive stuff. You know, if you do that, you know, that's part of the imaging process. And I know when I first came into contact with this whole imaging thing, you know, I said, well, geez, this is like, you know, does anybody really do this? Well, the thing I found is that, no, not everybody does it. Only the successful people do it, you know. And of course, if that's the direction you want to go, then that's, you know, basically what to do.
You know, a lot of people get trapped in circumstances, and they're afraid to pursue new ideas because they know that a lot of the people they hang out with, family or friends or whatever, are sort of locked in the same position, and they have resistance when somebody in that group actually changes and takes a new path. Do you think that it takes a lot of courage to pursue new ideas?
A tremendous amount of courage. There should be Academy Awards for people who have courage to do what they'd like to do, regardless of the opposition they get from people around them. And unfortunately, very often it's the people who are closest to them, and you know, even their communities sometimes that hold them back. But you know, the thing you've got to realize is that when it comes down to it, there's no one who is accountable for your life other than you. And you need to be responsible for what it is you do and where you go. And if it means that you've got to maybe separate yourself from the people that you've been with for a long while who are holding you back and make some new friends, then, you know, you need to take those steps to do that. That's your responsibility. And, you know, when you're in better shape to be able to look upon those people as not having so much influence on you anymore, then you can go back and, you know, you can meet them and, you know, and still enjoy friendships and whatever. But, you know, it's very true about your income is determined by the average income of the 6 closest friends you have, you know. And so you need to get a better class of friends if your friends are holding you back.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a difficult thing to change your life and to pursue your dream. I think that most people experience a tremendous amount of discomfort in the process of pursuing their dreams. You think that virtually everybody will be uncomfortable in achieving their goals and trying to make their dreams come true?
I think it's how you frame it. You know, I kind of look at it as an adventure, you know. And if you look at it as an adventure, then, you know, what is an adventure? You're going off looking for new things to happen. You're looking for new and good things to happen. And, you know, if you go out and you look for new and good things to happen, more of those are going to happen. Now, if you're really tuned into the negative stuff, you may go out looking for good things, and, you know, you may find that not everything that you run into is good. You need to recognize, okay, well, that's not so good. Let me go on to something else and, you know, see what it is and where it is I can go. And, you know, that's kind of easier for me to say in the position that I'm in, but, you know, when you're so-called down and out, it's very often not quite that clear that there's a clear road ahead of you, and you just need to have a strong feeling and belief that there's something there for you, because there's something there for everybody, and there's a way out for everyone, and, you know, the way out is never not there.
Yeah. So you believe it's really important for people to believe in their dreams, that they'll actually become reality?
Absolutely. In fact, I don't think there's anything else you should believe in other than your dreams. Follow your passion is basically what your guiding light in your life should be. Mm-hmm. If your passion is model railroading, and you just can't figure out how to make a living out of it, don't worry about it. Be a model railroader. Get into it real deep, and you'll find a way to make a living out of it. Mm-hmm. But follow your passion, whatever it is. I just pulled model railroading out of the sky here. I'm not sure. I'm not even a real model. I'm not a model railroad. Although I did have trains when I was a kid. But it doesn't matter what it is. Just find your passion. I think a lot of people have given up on their passion, mm-hmm. and so you need to reignite your dreams. And one way to really do that is get a hold of some songs that are tuned into that dream. There's Mariah Carey has a song called Hero. There are a number of songs. Debbie Boone, You Light Up My Life. There's some things that Bette Midler and Judy Collins did that are real inspirational, but just things that inspire you, that have a hopeful tune to them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And listen to that stuff. Get inspired, whatever it is. I don't know what inspires you. Everybody has something different that inspires them. You need to find that, and if you don't have anything, then you need to search for something to inspire you.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that most people have problems with is doubts and fears, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not attaining their goals. How do you overcome your doubts and fears?
Well, I realized that you don't need to be afraid of it. There was a famous spiritual person, and I forget, it was a Buddhist monk or something like that, and I think I heard this from Wayne Dyer, and he said, why worry? If you can do something about a situation, why worry? Because you can do something about it, right? Mm-hmm. So just do something about it. And if you can't do anything about it, then why worry about it? You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, so true.
And so if you have that attitude, then, where's the fear and the worry in something? Be sure that you're going to fail. Failure is not something you need to fear. Failure is something you need to do, get over, get up, and get on with it. Because it's going to happen. The most successful people fail. In fact, they probably fail more than most other people, because they know that failure isn't the end of the road. Failure is the beginning of the road. If Edison, and this is one of my favorite things about Edison, and people quote this all the time, he was asked by someone, he was looking for the electric light, and he had done 10,000 experiments and he was asked how he feels about failing 10,000 times, and he says, I haven't failed 10,000 times. I've found 10,000 ways that don't work. Mm-hmm. That means I'm closer to the solution. I know 10,000 ways that don't work, so I'm running out of the ways that don't work. Mm-hmm. And he eventually, discovered the electric light.
Yeah, is there anybody outside of yourself that helped give you the willpower to be successful in life?
Well, I think a lot of people have it. I don't think there's probably any one person personally, probably more like people who I've met through books, because one of the wonderful things about books is that, first of all, you can meet a higher class of people.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
and you can really commune with the great people mm-hmm. of the world. A library to me is like a sacred place. It is a place where you can go and truly rest on the shoulders of the giants. Mm-hmm. And I think it was either Earl Nightingale or Joe Cosman, and maybe both, who related that to me. And libraries used to be a little better about this. That nowadays they've kind of like thrown away the old books and they'll just keep the new ones.
Yeah.
But there's still libraries around that do have the old books, and it's one of the reasons why one of my favorite things is going to used bookstores, the kind of used bookstores that carry the older books. Because there's some really great people who came before us, and studying them is like having a private mentor. They had the foresight to sit down and convey their knowledge through a book. It probably took them, probably 30, 40, 50 years of their lives to acquire the knowledge. They sit down and they summarize it all into a book. And then you read that book and you can capitalize on that. You can profit from it. You can learn from it. You can be inspired by it.
Yeah. Do you feel it's important to readily forgive those who upset, offend, and oppose you?
Yeah, it is, but it's real difficult to do for most people. And it's easier to say and even to say, okay, yeah, I forgive them, than to actually do it. And I think it's more that you need to forgive yourself for whatever harsh feelings you have for the person, and just the best way to treat someone who's done something in the past to you that you haven't liked is to just forget about them. You can do the forgive thing. You gotta say, I forgive you. That doesn't mean I want to be connected with you anymore, and just put them out of your life. Because if you don't do that, if you get angry toward them, if you have thoughts of revenge toward them, then you're bringing them closer to you. You're making them part of your experience.
Yeah.
So the only way to make them not part of your experience is to say, look, I forgive you for this. It's in the past. I can't do anything more about it. I don't want to be involved with you anymore, so just go on about your way. I'll go on about my way, and we'll part company.
How important is it to be of service to others? Do you find that as a source of joy?
Absolutely. It's one of the greatest sources of joy to help others, and in fact, one of the secrets of true success, I think Zig Ziglar said it best, is if you, I'm paraphrasing, of course, something to the effect that if you want to really be successful at what you're doing, help other people be successful at what they're doing.
How important is prayer in people's lives? Do you use prayer in your life?
I think everybody has their own version of what prayer is, and I know when I was growing up, prayer was one thing for me, and now it's something less like what it was, what I considered it was for me when I was a kid, which was, of course, being brought up as Catholic, sitting there and reciting the Lord's Prayer or other prayers, which, by the way, is still a very good thing to do. The Lord's Prayer is an excellent thing. One of my favorite one, though, is the 23rd Psalm.
Mine too.
And I've taken to memorizing that thing. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of prose or poetry, even that you can imagine. And so it's very inspirational to me. But prayer is something that goes beyond the standard, what we standardly consider to be prayers, and goes into things that were written by other people that are inspiring. Meditation, I think, is very close to prayer as well. And for me, prayer is less like, please God, give me $1 million, and more like just being at peace and at one with the higher power.
Well, how important is it to maintain a sense of humor in the face of serious problems?
Humor is absolutely essential if you can do it and maintain it. And sometimes it's difficult, but, humor is just so important. Like I said, doing something like watching comedies is so therapeutic for anything, whether, if you're sick. Norman Cousins, is it Norman Cousins?
Yeah.
I think it's Norman Cousins. Used to prescribe that in his book to, if you were having some health issues, to just watch comedies. And he said that people who did that, their health improved.
Mm-hmm. Well, didn't he heal himself from cancer by watching comedies?
Yeah, I believe that's what he did, yeah.
You've already talked about your dad being a hero and the baseball players being heroes. Are there any other heroes in your life now other than the baseball people, the authors, your parents?
I am inspired by most of the people I come into contact anymore with. I'm inspired by the people I do business with, my colleagues, and part of that is because I've kind of, acclimated to the kind of people that I enjoy being around, who have a common interest that I have, and who are the kind of people that I just enjoy being with. And it's amazing. I run into so many different people who are inspiring in so many different ways that, I guess you can say there are a lot of those people. And it's interesting because I think one of the things that's happened is my store of heroes has multiplied markedly,
mm-hmm.
From a few faraway sports hero type heroes
mm-hmm.
to everyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
In some way inspires me. My grandmother was an inspiration to me as well when I was growing up, and she was a real hero for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but, whenever I needed something, I wanted to go to the store and buy some candy or some ice cream or something, and I'd go to her and I'd ask her for some money, and she'd give me a quarter or a dime or a nickel or pennies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how difficult that must have been for her at the time, but she was a widow on a pension.
Mm.
And so, later on in life, I realized just, how significant it was for her to give me even that little bit of money, although in those days it was worth a lot more than it is today. But
boy, isn't that the truth?
Nevertheless, it was, on a widow's pension, she didn't get very much money. And she was, to me, probably the closest I've ever come to meeting a saint, because she just did things for other people and never even said that. It wasn't even relevant. She didn't talk about doing things for other people. She just did things. She always cared about other people. She didn't buy nice clothes for herself. She didn't have the money to, but she didn't really care to it. And I realized this later on in life, because when I was starting to be successful and had some money, I realized what she had done and given me when I was a kid. And so I thought I'd give her some money, because here she is. She doesn't really spend any money on herself. Mm-hmm. And so I gave her some. I tried to give her some money. She wouldn't take it. So I ended up in I'd take some a $20 bill or something, and I'd hide it, where she would come across it eventually, but she wouldn't know how or where it got there.
Do you feel that there are any real heroes in our society that aren't being recognized today?
Lots of them, and most of them are everyday people. The biggest heroes in the world are the people who don't get recognized for them, for what they do, because it takes a lot more courage to do things for other people when you're not recognized and rewarded for it in a public fashion. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to be a baseball player who's looked up to as a hero from thousands or even millions of kids than it is to be, a father who, grows up and is a hero to just his own children.
Well, why are heroes so important in the lives of young people?
Well, because they inspire them, and all young people have a basic thing that they need to get through that every young person has had to get through, and that's a lack of confidence in themselves. When you're growing up, you're a kid. You're managed by your parents, your teachers, your clergy, authorities, all sorts of authority figures. You are the low person on the pole, the low rung on the pole, and it tends to instill a lack of confidence rather than, it's made up for by the fact that young people are kind of resilient to that factor anyway. But at some point, there needs to be this transition, because there's some point when the child needs to become an adult, and that transition, that lack of confidence and being the thing that people tell you how to act, now you need to become the person who knows how to act and tells other people how to act. And how are you going to do that if you don't have heroes in your life to show you a good example?
Mm-hmm. Do you think that young people in particular look at what people do rather than what they say so much?
Yeah, I think a lot of a lot of that happens. Yeah, you do need to kind of look at what people do, and I think that's actually a good thing, because people very often say one thing and then do something entirely different, and so sometimes, it's easy for kids to see through that, and so it's important to have a good example. But the thing is, even if your parents aren't that good example, don't be harsh toward them, because they may have grown up in the same exact environment you've grown up in, mm-hmm. and they're probably just passing it on and not realizing it either. Yeah. So it's not something you need to be upset about with them. It's just find the heroes and mentors in your life that will inspire you as good examples.
Seems to be a real difficult situation in society today. There's so many people that are told that you should be your kid's buddy, and then there's other people who say that you should be the parents and exert discipline over the kids and help guide them. What do you think about that dilemma?
I think you should be both, in a sense. I think obviously you need to be a guiding light to your children in terms of keeping them safe from injury and damaging things as much as you're able to, and to the extent you're able to. And you also need to be someone that they can talk to as well. And again, if you're a kid and you find yourself that you don't have parents that are like that, that's okay too. If you find yourself that you don't have parents at all, that's okay too, because there are people. You live in a community, and your community can be your parents. And if you're not in the right community, then there's a world out there with people who will respond to helping you and being your mentors, helping you in a hero sense and being good examples for you. Just look for them.
Do you think those mentors and those heroes are looking for people to come up to them so that they can help minister to them?
They probably aren't looking for them, but that would be a good idea.
Well, I've talked to a number of the heroes that I've interviewed, and they said that the thing that made the big difference in their life that caused them to achieve unbelievable success is they found the people that they admired the most, and then they contacted those people and offered to do anything that they could to help get their assistance and just to help work with them.
That's an excellent way to go, and an excellent thing to do, because it's very difficult for mentors to know who's out there, who out there needs their inspiration, and the best way to get it is to give. It's basically that's really the whole secret to the whole thing. Is the best way to get whatever you want in life is to give other people what they need in life.
Mm-hmm. Well, how does it feel to be recognized as a hero? I know you're one of the heroes that I met going to all the internet conferences. How does that feel to be recognized for the good that you do?
Well, I'm quite honored, actually, and I don't think of myself as a hero. I think I probably think myself more as someone who'd like to be a hero, and certainly would like to live up to that accolade, certainly.
Well, why do you think I honored you as a hero?
Well, you probably saw something in me that you liked, that you thought was hero quality, and I kind of appreciate that.
It's honesty and integrity, and working with you at your conference and seeing how you worked with the people that were there and tried to provide them the greatest quality of information, and just made their investment in your seminar something that would pay off over and over again. I think I really admired that, on how much you wanted to give back for what the people had invested.
Yeah. Well, I like I said, I think there's no other way to do that, and I've just found that that's just the best. That makes me feel good, and therefore that's the way I want to do it. So.
Well, what are you doing to make the world a better place?
Well, I'm teaching, and I'm teaching people how to be successful in their own businesses as entrepreneurs on the internet, and my secret aspirations in the movie business are where I'd like to actually make movies that inspire people. My favorite movie of all time, and this is very telling, is It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, by the way, this is an excellent, if you're really feeling down about something and what you need to be uplifted, comedies will certainly work. But watch It's a Wonderful Life, and don't just watch it once. Make a habit of it. To me, I'll watch it, especially around Christmas time. I'll watch it several times, and I do it every Christmas. And I'll tell you, every time I watch the movie, I get something more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that touches your heart, because the point in the movie, and at the end, is George Bailey, realizes that no man is a failure who has friends.
Mm-hmm. And
George Bailey actually is probably my number one hero, and he isn't even a real figure. He was made up by Frank Capra and the writers and Jimmy Stewart. But that scene at the end when he finds out just how important he was to the people around him,
mm-hmm.
that's my hero.
Yeah. Well, do you have any good solutions for the problems facing our society now, especially racism, child and spousal abuse, and violence among young people?
Yeah, I think you need to think globally and act locally, I think is the phrase, mm-hmm. or something. In other words, you need to consider all the ways that people can get along with each other and respect each other, and then be an example of that in your own life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, if you had 3 wishes for your life and the world that would come true instantly, what would they be?
3 wishes. Peace on earth.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
The end of all suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, if we had peace on earth and end of suffering, See, that would kind of be utopia. That would almost be sufficient. Maybe I can pick a third one. Good information to. Oh, maybe the third one for me: peace on earth. The end of suffering, and an Academy Award for being the best director.
There you go. Well, what do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
I think this is a greatly needed program, and is a long time coming, and I think it needs to be really spread out there and disseminated to people who need it, and want it. And I think it's an integral part of the fact that bringing people who are not normally known as heroes into contact with people who need heroes, mm-hmm. and can be inspired by them.
What do you think are the things that parents can do that will help their children realize they too can be heroes and make a positive impact on the lives of others?
Well, I think they need to have their own heroes too, because one of the things that you're doing here is you're asking your people who are involved in your In Search of Heroes program who their heroes are. So, parents need to have their heroes who inspire them to be good parents in a good parenting way, and also, but not just the parenting way, but just good people, mm-hmm. and to cure the wounds that they had when they were growing up, because we all have those, mm-hmm. and that's okay. We just need to not pass them along as much as we can. And I'm speaking very idealistically here, but when it really comes down to it, if you're not perfect, if you haven't been doing it perfect, that's okay too. Just do better. Mm-hmm. That's the point. No one expects you to be perfect. They just expect you to do better. Mm-hmm. And so work on some of those things. Do something about it. Be better. Be a better person. Be a better example for your children. Mm-hmm. And let them be their own people. I raised 3 kids, and I'm sure I didn't do a perfect job, but one of the things that I did do is I allowed them to be their own people, to pick and choose what it is they want it to be without me pushing them in any direction. I'll help them as much as I can, but I didn't pick anything for them to do. I wanted them to not be hindered by me putting pressure and control on them to do something that I wanted them to do, because what I wanted them to do is I wanted them to do whatever inspires them.
Mm-hmm. Well, Carl, I really appreciate your time. I know you're incredibly busy getting ready for your seminar in June, mm-hmm. and I just really value your answers. You've had some really great ones. I know you're one of the most profound thinkers and copywriters on the Internet today. Is there a parting statement you want to leave with everybody?
Well, I think I kind of covered pretty much most of it all, but if I can summarize the thing in a short few words, I would say follow your passion, be inspired, find your heroes, and do things for other people.
That is really a good advice. Well, I really thank you for your time, and I just appreciate you as a person.
Oh, you're welcome, Ralph. And I appreciate you for doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, and I will see you at your seminar.
Okay. Look forward to it.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, Ralph.
Bye.
Bye-bye.